Warning. The following video is not intended for an audience under the age of 13. Do not watch the video without a guardian or parent present. That is all.
You know, fans can be a fairly fickle mistress sometimes. The reason I say this is because initially this week, I wanted to record an episode on Energon Slugslinger here, as well as my aforementioned review of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. However, what ended up hurting both of those plans was the fact that I hit 200 subscribers. Naturally, this milestone triggered my unhealthy desire to overperform, and so I immediately threw out the script that I was writing and began writing a script on Rodimus Unicronus. First and foremost was the script. Now then, in my mind, if I'm going to successfully review a figure, my script needs to basically write itself. For lack of a better term, despite the fact that I really do not like using pop lingo, the figure and I essentially have to be vibing with each other. In this particular instance, I was having a much easier time writing a review for Slugslinger than I was for Rodimus Unicronus. And as a result, the script for that review was very, very boring. The second reason I've decided to can the Rodimus Unicronus review for the time being is, well, Rodimus Unicronus is way too big to fit inside of the light box. Unfortunately, if I had actually gone through with this initial plan to review Rodimus, then the unfortunate truth is that I would have had to have constantly been switching between my original style of reviews where I held the toy in front of the camera and my current style where I had it in the light box for all the bits where it was just hot rod. And according to Silver, it's probably for the best that I just don't go back to that style. Then, of course, we get to the thing that makes me feel the most ashamed, and that's the fact that I have to can the She-Ra and the Princesses of Power retrospective that I told you all about last episode. The reason I decided to can this review was the same reason that I decided to can the Rodimus Unicronus review. The script was complete and utter crap. That's a problem with a lot of my reviews, is that, well, I feel the need to be as good as humanly possible. Like, especially with my Zaytar review, as much as I liked making that, I'm kind of embarrassed of it because I left in way too many of my additional takes on lines. And in the end, I feel as though that hurt my communication skills in that video. So with that out of the way, salutations denizens of the internet, I'm Firebite27, and let us commence our analysis of Generations War for Cybertron Siege, Deluxe Class Skytread. And no, he will not be called Flywheels in this review. That is a very dumb name, and you know it. Let's go to the light box. Now, of course, in his vehicle modes, Skytread is somewhat bland. I mean, I can't exactly say that I blame them, considering that the source material is also fairly bland, but what are you gonna do? If I have to say that either one of these components is my favorite, it'd have to be the jet. And that's mostly down to the fact that, well, it's the least compromised of the two. Granted, his jet mode still does have a very crazy undersection, but that's a cliche of all jet formers. Now then, of course, the tank is a bit more compromised because, well, you can't tilt the gun up and or down, and you can't rotate it more than, like, just this. But it does work for what it's trying to be. And that is an update of G1 Skytread. Now then, if I had a flight stand, I'd of course show you the fact that, well, this thing can probably plug in and fly around a bit. Especially when you see that Skytread boasts a flight stand port molded into his undercarriage. The tank also sports a figure stand hole, but that's because it forms legs in robot mode. Unfortunately, since I do not own any figure stands that actually work, I can't show you this feature. And despite the fact that, well, this tank mode is slightly compromised, at least it's nowhere near as compromised as, well, Battle Slash's legs were. Man, I can't believe that that figure actually exists. Like, how did anyone think that these were acceptable? I mean, I'm no expert in engineering, but I figure that you probably could have done better than this. I mean, I don't think I would have been... The components that also form flight vehicles do also seem a bit compromised, but again, it's Skytread that gets superior vehicles, because, well, just look at these. I mean, just look at that gap in the front. Is that helicopter like the child of Spinister and Birdo? Anyways, let's do a few size comparisons. Here are Skytread's components next to Earthrise Battlemaster Smashdown, Direct Hit and Power Punch, Universe Skywarp, Earthrise Cliffjumper with his bazooka, Micromaster's Night Flight and Visper, Micromaster's Big and or Top Shot, another duo con of sorts, the top half of Siege Cog, as well as the bottom half of Siege Cog, Generation Select Siege Zatar, Earthrise Astrotrain's Coal Car, a standard can of sparkling water, a standard Kutama, and of course, Broadside. So overall, these two vehicle modes are pretty good, but they are a wee bit compromised, though that's not the fault of the designer, that's the fault of the gimmick. Now then, Skytread, transform! Haha, I'm just joking, don't worry, you can't actually automorph these two. They are stuck as vehicles until you actually manually transform them. Traps robot mode. The robot mode for Skytread here is actually pretty well proportioned. Granted, there are a few things about it that bug me, like, first of all, the jet fin from vehicle mode makes it so that you can't turn the waist swivel properly. Then we've also got the fact that these wings would also have gotten in the way had they not hinged them back, and the fact that, well, there's a bit of a stress mark here on these wings. Then we've got the fact that, well, the toe bend isn't the best around and gets stopped by these panels up here, but it's here where I must talk about something that I really liked about the transformation. These flaps. Now then, a big complaint with the Prime Wars trilogy, not that I really owned enough figures to say that this was a valid complaint, is the fact that they were hollow as all hell. But fortunately, most of the Wave 1 figures from Siege were committed to covering up any hollow areas on the figure. Granted, there are still a few gaps that let through and burn down this entire facade, but they do work extremely well. For weapons, we can either go short and stout, long and skinny, or both at once, aka a gun mode that I think references Power Rangers SPD and the Red Rangers, like, double guns that fuse together. Just hope it's not offensive to talk about SPD at this time. Or we can go with weaponizer weapons, but let's be real, this is kinda silly, but boy do I love silly weapons like this. Reminds me of something from, like, Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, except, you know, the show isn't going to be shit. Of course, if the Siege Netflix trilogy turns out to be complete and utter shit like the Prime Wars trilogy, then, well, yeah, won't say that I told everyone, but I'm not surprised. I also wouldn't be surprised if Skytread wasn't in it. Now then, unlike with Battle Trap, the individual halves of Skytread can't really be much fun on their own. So, for example, if you were to see one half of Skytread in a, well, secondhand shop, or dare I say it, a Salvation Army, then, well, you'd kind of be out of luck, because then you'd only be able to form one half of the robot mode. But if enjoying the individual halves of the robot mode is what we had to sacrifice in order to, well, ensure that it doesn't look like a steroid abuser, then I'm all the more for it. Also, I do feel as though weapons would be somewhat redundant for this character. As you can clearly see him here molded into his wrists, they are like some kind of missiles, or maybe knuckle dusters, or possibly cannons. I don't know what these are, but they look cool and I really do like them. And his articulation is incredible considering the nature of the transformation. It's fine for what it is. Oh yeah, I should mention that overall the colors are, well, they're the best, but they're far from terrible. Anyways, let's do some size comparisons before I wrap up this video. There's Skytread in his robot mode next to Power of the Prime's Battle Trap in his combined robot mode. God, this throws to light just how awful this figure was. Can we get a redo of this figure in the same style as Skytread? I really would like that. Not for G1 accuracy, but because I think this style does look better. The robot mode of Siege Cog, Earthrise Cliffjumper's robot mode, and yes, I do think that I should review this guy in the near future. Who knows, maybe it'll even be my next episode. Direct Hit and Power Punch, Battlemaster Smashdown, Micromaster's Big and/or Top Shot and Flak, Micromaster's Visper and Stormcloud, a standard can with sparkling water, a standard Qtama, and of course, Broadside. Now then, I won't say that Skytread is better than Battle Trap. I'd say that he makes Battle Trap completely obsolete. It is no small feat that they managed to get two small Transformers like these to combine into a basically deluxe robot. However, I'd rather they didn't have robot modes at all. As a result of having robot modes, these two were incredibly compromised. Not to mention, this looks like shit. I mean, these arms are so bulky and disproportionate. Those legs, too. God damn, he's got some thunder thighs. And this isn't me ratting on G1 accuracy for the sake of G1 accuracy. But in the end, remaining as two separate vehicles, as opposed to Battle Trap's two robots that also transformed into vehicle mode, really helped this figure, well, look better. And also feels better than Battle Trap. I'm not sure what the hell was going on, but that thing was unstable to the 9th degree. So, in the end, I do think that Skytread far surpasses the original generation's Duocon. It would have been nice to have two separate robot modes, but in the end, I think they made the right choice. So with that being said, I'd like to give this figure an honorary 8 out of 10. He's not an amazing figure, and there are a bit of compromises made for this figure, but at least he feels stable, unlike Battle Trap. But when you're trying to create an action figure, a Transformer especially, stability needs to be your main objective, along with articulation and everything else. But with that being said, thank you all for watching. So please remember to like the video, share it with your friends, comment down below to let me know your thoughts on Skytread, and of course, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to see the next episode of 8 Figures when it appears. This is Firebite27, over and out.
When the lights go down, I've seen hell in you, but you don't care, no, you don't care. You just rather watch me fall from a quarter mile. I can see you at the glow. Think about